When installing an outdoor ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI receptacle, there are several code considerations and practical tips to keep in mind. Firstly, the GFCI must be listed for outdoor use, meaning it is specifically designed and rated to withstand the elements. Secondly, the GFCI must be installed within 6 feet of any water source, such as a faucet or hose bib. This proximity is crucial for providing effective ground fault protection in damp or wet locations. Thirdly, the GFCI must be protected by a ground fault circuit interrupter, circuit breaker, or another approved ground fault protection device. This ensures that the entire circuit is protected against ground faults, adding an extra layer of safety. Fourthly, the GFCI must be accessible and not obstructed by any furniture or appliances. Easy access is important for testing, resetting, and maintaining the device. Now, let's move on to some helpful tips and tricks for cutting into vinyl siding to install the GFCI receptacle. You'll need a few essential tools for this project. Firstly, a sharp utility knife is necessary for making precise cuts in the vinyl siding. Secondly, a vinyl siding cutter is optional but can make the cutting process easier and cleaner. Thirdly, a straight edge or framing square is needed to ensure your cuts are straight and accurate. Fourthly, a tape measure is essential for measuring and marking the location of the electrical box. Fifthly, a chalk line helps create straight lines for cutting, especially over longer distances. Sixthly, a drill is required for creating pilot holes or for installing screws. Seventhly, a hole saw, sized appropriately for the electrical box, is needed to cut a circular hole in the siding. Here are the steps to follow for cutting in the vinyl siding. 1. Measure and mark the location. Use a tape measure and chalk line to accurately locate the center of the electrical box on the siding. 2. Cut the siding vertically. Using a utility knife or siding cutter, make 2 vertical cuts down from the top and bottom of the siding, extending beyond the area where the electrical box will be installed. 3. Cut the siding horizontally. Make 2 horizontal cuts across the siding, one above the area marked for the electrical box and one below it. These cuts should connect with the vertical cuts you made earlier. 4. Cut the notch for the electrical box. Use a hole saw that matches the diameter of the electrical box to cut a circular hole in the siding at the marked location. 5. Remove the cut pieces. Carefully remove the cut pieces of siding to reveal the opening for the electrical box. Be gentle to avoid damaging the surrounding siding. 6. Install the electrical box. Position the electrical box in the opening and secure it to the wall using appropriate screws. Ensure the box is flush with the siding surface. 7. Install the GFCI receptacle. Connect the ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle to the electrical wires according to the manufacturer's instructions, and then carefully snap it into the electrical box. 8. Seal the gaps. Apply caulk around the edges of the electrical box where it meets the siding to prevent water from seeping behind the siding. This step is crucial for protecting the electrical components from moisture. Here are some additional tips to keep in mind. Firstly, always use a sharp utility knife or siding cutter to ensure clean and precise cuts. A dull blade can tear the siding and create a ragged edge. Secondly, score the siding first before making a full cut. This helps prevent the siding from cracking or splintering. Thirdly, cut the pieces of siding slightly larger than needed to allow for adjustments. It's easier to trim off excess material than to try to fill in a gap that's too small. Fourthly, use a scrap piece of siding to practice cutting before starting on the actual siding. This allows you to get a feel for the material and the tools. Fifthly, if possible, cut the siding on a flat surface such as a workbench or sawhorse. This provides a stable and safe cutting surface. And sixthly, always wear eye protection when cutting vinyl siding to protect your eyes from debris. Now, let's delve into some additional details and best practices for installing an outdoor ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle on vinyl siding, focusing on both code compliance and practical techniques. Before you even begin, it's paramount to ensure that the circuit you're tapping into is energized. Turn off the corresponding circuit breaker at the electrical panel. Use a non-contact voltage tester to verify that the wires are indeed dead before you start cutting or wiring anything. Safety should always be your top priority. When selecting the electrical box, opt for one that is specifically designed for outdoor use. These boxes are typically made of weatherproof materials and have features like watertight seals to prevent moisture from entering. Also, make sure the box is large enough to accommodate the ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle and all the associated wiring without overcrowding. As for the wiring itself, use conductors that are rated for outdoor use, such as Type UF, underground feeder cable. This type of cable is designed to withstand moisture, sunlight, and other environmental factors. Ensure that all wire connections are made inside the electrical box using appropriate connectors or wire nuts. Securely tighten the connections to prevent loose wires, which can cause arcing and pose a fire hazard. When connecting the ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle, pay close attention to the labeling on the device. The line terminals are for the incoming power from the circuit breaker, while the load terminals are for any downstream devices that you want to protect with ground fault protection. If you're not sure which terminals are which, consult the manufacturer's instructions. After you've wired the ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle, carefully tuck the wires into the electrical box and mount the receptacle securely. Use the screws provided with the receptacle and tighten them snugly. Avoid over-tightening, as this can damage the receptacle or the electrical box. Once the receptacle is installed, it's time to test it to make sure it's working properly. Most ground fault circuit interrupter receptacles have a test button and a reset button. Press the test button. The receptacle should trip, cutting off power to the circuit. Then press the reset button to restore power. If the receptacle doesn't trip when you press the test button, or if it trips immediately after you press the reset button, there may be a problem with the wiring of the receptacle itself. In that case, consult a qualified electrician. When sealing the gaps around the electrical box, use a high-quality, paintable caulk that is specifically designed for outdoor use. Apply the caulk evenly around the perimeter of the box, creating a watertight seal. Smooth the caulk with your finger or a damp cloth for a neat appearance. Regularly inspect the ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle and the surrounding area for any signs of damage or deterioration. Look for cracks in the siding, loose connections, or water stains. If you notice any problems, address them promptly to prevent further damage and ensure the safety of your electrical system. One more thing: when cutting vinyl siding in colder weather, vinyl siding becomes more brittle and prone to cracking. If you're working in cold temperatures, take extra care when cutting the siding. Warm the siding slightly with a heat gun or hair dryer before cutting, and use a fine-tooth saw blade for cleaner cuts. Also, consider using a specialized vinyl siding cutting tool, which is designed to make clean, precise cuts without damaging the siding. And if you are using a ladder, make sure the ladder is placed on a stable, level surface and that it is properly secured to prevent it from slipping or falling. Never overreach while working on a ladder, and always maintain 3 points of contact, 2 hands and 1 foot, or 2 feet and 1 hand. If you are not comfortable working on a ladder, consider hiring a professional electrician to do the job. In conclusion, installing an outdoor ground fault circuit interrupter receptacle on vinyl siding requires careful planning, attention to detail, and adherence to electrical codes. By following these guidelines and best practices, you can ensure a safe and reliable installation that will protect your home and family from electrical hazards. Remember, if you're not sure about any aspect of the installation, don't hesitate to consult a qualified electrician. Electricity can be dangerous, and it's always better to be safe than sorry.